Hello everyone. Today I'm going to walk you through HealthNote, which is an application developed by Long Health, and show how it supports the QME workflow from the physician's point of view. So before I begin, I want to frame the workflow very clearly. So by the time you're actually ready to evaluate the patient, the case will most likely already be set up by your staff on your behalf on HealthNote, and all of the patient's medical records, including the history, the intake forms, the previous questionnaires, and the supporting documents are already expected to be inside a case. So this becomes the first and best place to start your evaluation process because the history and the supporting records are already organized in one single place. From there, I'll show you how you can review the case through the review of records, the summary, the timeline view, the chat, and many other features, and then move into the physical examination section, how we document the physical exam and how we prepare the QME report, including how it can be dictated directly into the platform or uploaded as a document file into the case, and how regeneration works when something changes, and also how impairment rating calculations are done in a structured way. And finally, how everything can be reviewed, edited, copied, and exported in this single platform. For this demo, I'll mainly be using a prepared de-identified case for a patient named John Doe, as you can see on top, where the QME physician's name is Dr. James Watson, and he is assigned to evaluate the patient and prepare a detailed narrative report addressing injury and causation, treatment and future care, disability status, permanent factors of disability, including objective findings and impairment, apportionment, work restrictions, and return to work capacity. Before I begin, this is the main HealthNote dashboard screen, as you can see. This is where you can see all the cases that are assigned particularly to you, and you can go directly into any of these cases that you're actively working on and see multiple reports inside them. Now, these are ideally prepared by your staff on your behalf before you even see that patient. But if you want to create a case yourself, you can always do that by clicking on this new case button here and by entering the case name, the type of evaluation, which is QME evaluation in your case, and your specialty, and upload the files pertaining to that patient and click on create session. Now, for the sake of time, let me just dive into a case that was pre-prepared, which is for the patient John Doe that I mentioned about earlier. Now, across the top, you can see there are a lot of workflow tabs, including the case overview, the review of records, the summary, chat, quick reference, impairment rating, QME report, and the questionnaire. So this is one of the main strengths for HealthNote. By the time you're ready to start your evaluation, the goal is that the patient's medical history is already present here, along with all the records pertaining to that patient. So you can begin from a clear clinical view instead of starting from scattered PDFs and raw documents. That means you can start by reviewing the organized medical reports and the records pertaining to that patient and get oriented before you see the patient. So for this demo, those documents are already uploaded and processed, so I can show the downstream workflow right away. Now, before I get into the generated outputs, which are on the right side, I want to quickly show you one feature that we have, which is the search feature, because this alone can save you a lot of time. So for example, if you want to find a specific symptom, medication, body part, or any keyword across the case, you can search directly here and jump into the relevant places in the case material. So for example, if I want to look up the word wrist, I can just type in the word wrist and all the documents which contain that particular word, along with the number of total counts, appear here. And if you want to view that, you can just click on that and that particular word will be highlighted. So this can save you a lot of time in looking for certain words that you want to look across different medical records. So before I dive into the multiple other reports, I want to give you a basic overview of what the case overview tab is about. So as you can see, the case overview tab, we have three different sections. One is the injured worker section, the second is the case information section, and third is the physician who is assigned to this particular case. I haven't assigned any physician to this particular case, but you can always do so, and that will be done by the admin. So you don't have to worry about that particular part. But as for the other two sections, which is the injured worker section and the case information section, you can see that all the relevant information are extracted from the case and populated here, be it the first name, last name, date of birth, phone number, email address if present, the case name, the claim number, the date of injury, when the panel was issued at, whether the particular claimant was represented or not, and whether an interpreter was used during the evaluation or not, and what the specialty of the QME evaluator is. So this is a basic overview of this particular tab right here. Now let's move on to one of the most important parts of the workflow, which is the review of records. So before any meaningful evaluation, you need a clear picture of the patient's medical history. Traditionally, that means reading through raw records page by page and manually building a history of encounters, diagnosis, treatments, medications, imaging, procedures, and timelines. As you know, this takes a lot of time, but what HealthNote does is it automates that step. So once the records are uploaded right here by clicking on the upload files right here and uploading all the relevant files pertaining to that patient, which will be ideally done beforehand, the review of records section is automatically generated and structured in an organized manner, which can be used in a very efficient way. As you can see, we have all the metrics on top. For example, we have the date of injury, the total number of pages, the duplicate pages, the blank pages, and also the billable pages, if applicable. All of these information will be populated from your raw medical records and shown right here on top. And underneath that, you have a list of all events in a structured manner and classified into different events like encounters, visit summaries, diagnosis, treatments, procedures, labs and imaging, medications, and chronological timeline. So all of these events can also be filtered based on type. If you click on this filter records right here, you can always filter it based on a date range. You can sort it and also select the type of event you want. Let's say you just want treatment or therapy. You can just click on treatment and therapy and you'll get just that from whatever was passed from your medical records. Another valuable part of the review of records is the hyperlinking feature. So within the HealthNote UI itself, key findings can already be linked back into the original source document and the exact page they came from, which makes it much easier to move between the summarized view and the underlying record while you're reviewing the case. And when the review of records is exported, those links can remain preserved there as well. So for example, let's say pick an event. Let me just choose claims administrator letter right here. If I click on that, as you can see, it is mentioned on this particular page number. And as you can see, page number 2, this is where this particular record is coming from. And if you want to verify any single information from here, you can just view this information and do it right away, side by side. So all of these events, every single one of them is hyperlinked. So it can save you a lot of time and also help you navigate to the original source from where it is referenced from. And one more important feature is that all of these records can be edited. So if there is any information that you want to edit or add, you can always do that and save it. So we want to be as flexible as possible and make things easier for you. So that option is also there. There is one more feature we have, which is the timeline view, which makes it much, much easier to understand it in a visual manner. So instead of reading through all the review of records in a list fashion, you can view it immediately in the form of a calendar where every single event is color coded. All of these events are color coded according to the name right here. And all of these events. So for example, if I click on January 3rd, this is a PTP progress note, HPI, DX, TX, every single thing is mentioned right here. And once again, if you click on this particular thing, it's going to take you right where this particular progress note is mentioned. So this is another view that we have. And if you want to view when the person was injured, you can always go back and see that particular month is marked in red. And this is the date of injury, as you can see, DOI. So this is when that patient was injured on. And following that, all the events that took place are color coded and marked on the calendar. So this gives you a much more intuitive way to understand the entire review of records instead of just reading through this entire list. So this is an overview of the review of records section that we have on our application. And next, I'm going to move on to the summary. So in addition to the review of records, HealthNote also provides a summary view, as you can see here, and this gives you a much more concise clinical overview of the case so you can get oriented quickly before you go deeper into the full record. So the review of records is more comprehensive, while summary gives you a faster and more condensed snapshot. So as you can see, we get a patient snapshot with all the patient information. We get the case overview. So this tells you what the case is about. And also you got a clinical timeline here, which is similar to the review of records. And then you have different sections like the medications, the vaccinations, the functional or work status timeline, the vitals immunizations if applicable, and also any relevant clinical gaps if present in the documents. Now, let me move on to the quick reference tab that we have right here. So the quick reference view is another alternate format that makes the case easier to navigate quickly. So instead of reading through a long narrative, it works more like a structured reference book with an index. So you can quickly jump into the key parts of the case where you want to. So for example, this is classified into before and after injury. So in this case, since there are no records prior to the date of injury, all of the events are in the after the injury section. So as you can see, once again, we have different sections such as the documents, the diagnosis and conditions, tests and results, current ongoing medication problems, complaints and symptoms, and the medical timeline. So as you can see, this is structured as a reference book with an index. So all of the reports, along with the dates, the type of reports, the provider organization, a short summary of what the report is about, and the page number pertaining to that is mentioned right here. And once again, this is hyperlinked. So if you click on any particular event, it's going to take you right into where that particular event is referenced in the original document. So once the records are structured, you usually do not want to keep scrolling manually, right? You want answers. So this is where the HealthNote chat interface comes into picture. So this is a case-aware assistant that works from the materials inside this particular case and helps you navigate the record more efficiently. So it can answer case-specific questions, and it also remembers the previous questions and answers. So the conversation can build progressively. For example, if I just say, give me the recent blood work results, it's going to query your entire medical history of records right here and give you an answer pertaining to that. Okay, so now as you can see, it said that the provided records do not contain any recent blood work. Okay, so let me ask a different question. So it is more pertinent to this case. So let me say, what is the mechanism of the injury that occurred? So as you can see, we get a detailed answer along with all the dates. Mechanism of injury occurred on this particular date when John Doe was operating a forklift with accompanying another store director. He realized the forklift was not going to stop and was heading towards the visiting store director's truck, etc. So you can get all your answers right here in this chatbot as it is aware of the entire medical records uploaded in this particular session. So this is another interesting feature that we have on our application. And then comes another feature that we have, which is your personalized notepad right here. This gives you a place to keep your personalized notes directly inside the platform instead of like switching into a separate notes app like Word doc or Notepad during your case review. An important detail is that the notepad is user specific. So even if multiple QME evaluators are working or multiple physicians are working on one particular case, and let's say this case is assigned to multiple different physicians, only you can see your own personal notes. So for example, I've created some notes already here just for the sake of time. So these are some of the notes that you can prepare during your case review. So you can remember and also make notes as to check later on as to what needs to be completed pertaining to that case. And all of this is editable, and you can also create tables if you want, as you can see right here with these options on top. And always save it, and you can come back later. Now, I'm going to move into the physical exam workflow, which is the next major part of the physician experience. So this is the part that becomes especially important during the actual evaluation itself. Now, let's talk about AI Scribe right now. So AI Scribe is one of the most important part of our application, and it also is one of the most important parts of the physician's workflow. So during the physical examination, your findings can be directly captured inside HealthNote by directly clicking on Start Session right here, entering a session name. So for example, I can say Patient Visit 1. And then I can select a session type right here and click on Next and click on this mic icon right here. And once I do that, it will start recording. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to record it right now, but you can always do that. And those findings can be entered directly right here, and they can be dictated directly into the platform, and they can be captured through the recorded audio and transcription, or the exam measurements can be uploaded as a file into the document upload section right here. So in this case, there was a pre-recorded conversation between the doctor and the patient. As you can see, this is the actual conversation note where the doctor is asking the patient performing a complete orthopedic examination, measuring different body parts and taking their physical examination measurements. As you can see, they're taking different measurements such as the wrist extension, which is like 40 degrees, radial deviation, 10 degrees, etc. And all of these are recorded inside the AI scribe. And once the recording is done and hit the submit button, this detailed AI report in a structured manner is prepared with all of the information that is captured during the original conversation with the patient. And this will later be used for preparing the impairment rating and the QME report. So as you can see, a structured report with all the clinical findings and encounter summary, along with all of the physical examination measurements in a structured tabular format, is recorded and presented right here. And this is also completely editable, so we provide the flexibility for you to do so. So for example, if you wanted to correct any single measurement, so let's say it is 45 degrees here, which was recorded during the transcription. In reality, let's say you wanted it to be 50 degrees, you can always do so by clicking on this, changing it to 50 degrees, and clicking on save. So once you do that, that will be saved right here. So this is another important feature that we have, which will give you the flexibility to always look back into your transcription, what you originally spoke, and the AI report that was prepared. Also, if any information needs to be corrected, you can always do so by clicking on the edit button and then saving it right here. Let me move on to the impairment rating section right here. Once all of your clinical records are uploaded and you're very satisfied with all of the records that are present and you're ready to proceed with the impairment ratings, so we give you an impairment rating tab right here, which you can click on and generate the impairment rating. So before you click on generate impairment rating, it just asks you to confirm whether the key medical records are present in the case already, such as the raw medical records in this case, and also the latest physical examination findings, which in this case it is already present. So the physical examination findings is present inside the AI scribe, and all of the medical records are present right here. So once that is done, you can click on generate impairment rating, and you can click on yes, and it is going to start processing all of your medical records to prepare your impairment rating section. And as you can see, also give you an important detail, which is the MMI, which is a key factor for proceeding with impairment rating calculation, because you do not want to proceed with calculating impairment if the patient is not MMI yet, right? So this is another key information that we provide to you physicians so that it will save you a lot of time instead of going through a lot of records. It'll also give you the reason as to why it said intermediate. So we have different statuses such as MMI status no, MMI status intermediate, and MMI status yes. So in this case, it is saying intermediate, and also it will give you a rationale as to why it said intermediate. So you can read through this reasoning and also come to a conclusion whether the MMI status is actually intermediate or not. So this is another key feature that we have in our application. And if the MMI status is no, we do not proceed with impairment rating calculation, and we'll give you an option to proceed with impairment rating calculation, although the MMI status is no, but it is up to you because it is not advisable to proceed with proceed with impairment rating calculation if the MMI status is no, right? So we do give you an option because we want to give you the flexibility to calculate even if it is not MMI, but ideally it is not advised to do so. I'm going to also trigger the QME report in parallel when the impairment rating also calculates in the background. So I can show you both together. This is our QME report section where you can prepare your QME report based on the type of report that you want to prepare. So we have different options. As you can see, we have ML201, which is the comprehensive QME report. We have follow-up report, which is ML202, and we also have the supplemental ML203 report. And according to your needs, you can select your type of report and prepare the QME report. And before you proceed with the QME report, we require these documents to be present within the case, which is the QME request letter, which pretty much looks like this on top right here, which will give you all the requests for the QME evaluation. So this is a request letter sent to this particular Dr. James Watson for evaluating John Doe, and he was asked to prepare a report and note these findings down, such as do you believe that the patient has genuine subjective complaints, objective findings, the impairment rating calculation, whether the permanent stationary status has been reached or not, etc. So this particular letter needs to be present within your case files in order for the QME report to generate, because we need this request in order to prepare the QME report form. And along with that, we also require all of the medical records, which are already uploaded right here pertaining to that particular patient. In this case, I'm going to proceed with the ML201 report, which is a comprehensive QME report. But we are also aware that a supplemental report is required by many physicians, because sometimes it is not necessary that all of the medical records are present in a case beforehand. So the doctor proceeds to do a physical examination first, either using AI scribe or noting them down in some document and then uploading that later. And then once they prepare the comprehensive report using the physical examination, then they're going to receive all of the medical records, because the diagnostic studies take some time. So then they want to proceed preparing a supplemental report later on using the comprehensive report that was prepared earlier using the physical examination measurements. So we are aware that supplemental reports and follow-up reports are also required. So we have that option as well, and we are continuously working on improving them. But for this case, I'm just going to proceed with the comprehensive ML201 report, and I'm going to click on generate right here. Okay, as you can see, the impairment rating section has generated completely. And you can see that all of the inputs are from the measurement sheet, which was created using the AI scribe from the conversation. So all of the measurements from the right wrist RO and flexion 50 degree, extension 40 degree, radial deviation 10 degree, ulnar deviation 20 degrees are all taken right from here. And if you remember, we also edited this from 40 degrees to 50 degrees. So the updated measurement is taken, which is 50 degrees right here. And all of these measurements are taken from either the medical records or the ASVAB or both, if it is present in both, and used for the impairment rating calculation here. And every single step is documented in a structured manner, along with all the body parts, including all the regions of the body, like upper extremity, lower extremity, if applicable, etc. And all of the page numbers in the AMA guidelines 5th edition, including the figure number and the table numbers, are referenced against each calculation. So you get a clear mathematical trail to trace back and verify yourself from the AMA guideline. Here, the right upper extremity, all of these are referenced. So as you can see from figure 1628, the wrist flexion 40 degrees converts to IE of 4% upper extremity impairment. And this particular page number along with figure number is also mentioned. So you can always go back and verify that. Similar to that, we have it for forearm as well as the thumb, which are the other body parts that were injured during this case. And we also have the grip and pinch strength based impairments. So we can see that as well. And also we have the total upper extremity impairment, which is calculated following that, then converting the regional impairment to whole percentage impairment, whole percent impairment. And then we have the final answer, which is the standard AMA guideline impairment rating, and also we have the adjusted rating for Almaraz-Guzman if warranted. So we also provide Almaraz-Guzman rating if it is warranted in this case, but in this case it is not because it is not applicable since this particular case was not suitable for Almaraz-Guzman rating. But Almaraz-Guzman rating is also present if it is applicable, and it is automatically going to be generated if applicable. And also some of the limitations and assumptions are mentioned here. So for example, if you forgot to measure a particular body part during your physical examination, and that particular body part measurement was required for your impairment rating calculation, that particular body part is going to be mentioned as a limitation here, asking you to remeasure or upload a measurement for that particular body part so you can get a better and accurate result. Apart from that, you also see that certain factors are not documented, like hand dominance is not documented, grip and pinch values appear to be single measurements because traditionally they require it to be measured 3 times. And also there is another section, which is the thumb opposition, which is not measured in centimeter. There are multiple other things which can be considered to improve your impairment rating calculation. So this is the entire impairment rating calculation section that I wanted to talk about. Now, one more important thing that I want to mention is that we have a questionnaire section right here, which is a case-specific physical examination questionnaire, which will help you and guide you in asking the right type of questions if you want for assistance during your physical examination. So, for example, it is going to recognize all the injured body parts, which in this case is the right wrist and the right thumb, and give you a list of questions that can be asked during the physical examination in order to capture the right measurements for the impairment rating calculation. So, for example, you can see right wrist. It gives you a list of questions that you can potentially ask to the patient to get their input and document them during AI scribe. Now, let us move back to the QME report that we set up for generation. So, as you can see, the QME report is generated with the title QME Comprehensive Medical Legal Report. All of the sections are documented in a traditional QME boilerplate template. So you can see the patient name, the social security number, the claim number, the WCAB number, the panel number, and these information are not present inside this particular case file, and that will be highlighted to you so you can always update them by editing here. So you can click on edit and you can always fill that information up if you want to for your final report. And then we have the date of injury, date of employment, where he was employed at, etc., and all of that, including the date of examination. Then we have the encounter statement right here, followed by the billing statement, along with the total number of pages that were reviewed, the blank pages, the billable pages, and then we have the introduction, the documents that were reviewed, all of the documents, the history of injury in a detailed manner, and then the medical treatment since the injury, the current complaints, the past medical history, the physical examination, once again, which is picked up from the AI scribe. As you can see, it's organized in a structured tabular manner. Then we have the diagnostic studies that were reviewed, the employment history, activities outside of employment, diagnosis, and the industrial causation. And also the temporary disability status, discussion, and the MMI status, which is one of the most important things. As you can see, is intermediate, similar to what was discussed earlier in the impairment rating section. And then we got the permanent impairment section, which is once again similarly documented to what was documented in the impairment rating section earlier. And then comes the work restriction and limitation. So if you want to add any more or edit any of these work restrictions or limitations that are outputted by our model right here, you can always do so once again by clicking on edit and updating the same. Also, we have the future medical care, the apportionment, and the conclusion, followed by the declaration. So in this case, it is Dr. James Watson, and then comes the declaration statement. This is the end of the QME report. And once you're satisfied with the entire report after editing all the information, you can always download this report either as a docx as well as a PDF right here. And this is applicable for all of the reports that we have, including review of records, summary, quick reference, QME report, and the questionnaire. So you can always download it and save it as a local copy on your own computer for your review. Now, finally, once you're satisfied with all of the outputs, that includes the review of records, summary, quick reference, physical examination report, and the QME reports, all of these reports, along with your raw medical records, can be combined into one single PDF and exported, which can be done by clicking on this export icon right here. And you can select all the relevant reports that you want. So for example, if I just want review of records, I can just select that and then ignore the rest. Once you click on download, all of these raw medical records along with the review of records is going to be downloaded in an attached manner. So I'm going to do all of these together for this particular case. So I'm going to click on download by selecting all of them. Download has started, and I'm going to save that as a PDF right here. Now I'm going to open that up. So as you can see, all of these records, along with all the reports that are attached, the review of records, the summary, the quick reference, and then comes the QME, the impairment rating calculation, and along with the raw medical files. As you can see, these are the raw medical files, right? So all of these are combined into one single PDF and that can be exported. And one interesting thing here is all of these links in the review records are hyperlinked. So for example, if I want to click on the claims administration letter, it's going to take me right into that particular page where the claims administration letter is. So it is like your own book with an index. So the overall goal is that you can review the case, perform the evaluation, prepare the report, edit it, and finalize it in a submission ready format without needing to leave HealthNote. So that is HealthNote QME workflow for you from a physician's perspective. The main idea is that by the time you're ready to evaluate the patient, the case history and records are already expected to be captured inside the platform, making this the best place to begin the evaluation process. From there, HealthNote helps you move through the records review, case understanding, physical exam documentation, QME report generation, editing, regeneration, and final export, all inside one connected workflow. That is what makes HealthNote a complete package for the QME workflow. Thank you.